for here, but has to set himself
with disperse,
back.
right?
Yep.
So 1 on a blue says go away. In for 4, 14 Carvalho now.
Missed another turn 3 land drop.
Now, we talked about land, and we're not going to second guess, but he is running 16.
Yes, he is running 16, and with good reason. His deck is a pretty low curve. It's one of those things where you don't want to see a whole lot of land. He hit one there. It's a risk that you take and hope it pays off. And so far today, it's paid off for John pretty well. It is worth pointing out that John, one of the world's most famous Magic players, got a pretty good early start, a lot of pro points, a lot of championships, a lot of real fame. So famous, actually, that a book has been written about his life called Johnny Magic and the Card Shark Kids.
Yeah, and I've read that, and it is a top read. It really is.
It's very interesting. Thorntooth Witch hits for Carvalho. Pretty big play by him.
Okay, the Kithkin Zephyr does not get its first kinship underway, so it's back to being a 2-2 piece of mediocrity.
Yep.
Looking at John's hand, he's got a Sen's Air there.
Got the preeminent captain. He's going to send his creatures in. He does have Surge of Thought Weft, so that could potentially cause some problems for his opponent, especially because the Mosquito Guard that is in his hand would allow him to kill whichever creature's Marcio blocks with.
Yeah, Reinforces are a really nice addition to Magic. I really like it.
Yep, I do too. And it's particularly good for the Kithkin deck, which got both Bombardier and Mosquito Guard. You don't see Mosquito Guard played as much, but it definitely has been important.
So there is the Surge. And
the Mosquito Guard on
there it is.
That'll take down the Cloud Crown.
4-4 over a 3-4.
Yep.
I win. Thank you very much.
6 gets in on his opponent.
Any cards?
That's 6.
1, 2, 3.
Because he played the Surge of Thought Weft, both of his 2-power creatures go up 1, of course, and so that'll drop his opponent to 8 in pretty dangerous realm. Now the question is whether or not the Tree Folk barrage that we can only assume is coming from the Portuguese player will just undo everything that John's tried to do. Oh man, and what a Tree Folk to play. The Weed Pruner is going to not only take out that gold medal thanks to the Zephyr thanks to the Thorntooth, but if John doesn't do something fast, that Kithkin Greatheart doesn't have much lawn for this world.
No, I hope it hasn't got family. All right. Finkel lays land number 5. He's got Wizened Sen. That, of course, would take the Greatheart out of range of the Weed Pruner Poplar. Wizened Sen comes down. There we are. So now the question is, does he do a bluff here? Does he just try and increase the board position, or does he run things in representing a trick? I guess the thing is, Marcio's seen the deck list.
Yeah, Marcio knows what tricks are there. I think it's better to just, as he did, he used all his mana. He hesitated thinking about playing the Sen's Air, but I think I like the Preeminent Captain. That will allow him to play the Air next turn for free, potentially. Carvalho does have a Tree Folk in the form of Skeletal Changeling.
It's also worth saying that when you have a bluff, that only works when they don't have to block. But with Carvalho at 8, realistically, he had to block regardless. So to represent a trick and then, well, I'm going to block no matter what you've got, because if you have a trick, I just have to die to it. That's fair enough. I'm not going to let your monsters through. So bluffs are pretty tricky. I mean, we've seen some very tricksy bluffs through the weekend, and it's nice that that aspect of Magic is available. Some sets are pretty straight ahead, but right now you can do things in that regard.
Yep. Marcio's got a big play there. He puts his Thorntooth at risk. John does take the opportunity to double block, hoping for the best. Marcio's got the Briarhorn to just evoke, excuse me, and John's got a Moldrifter, which is pretty important here because he's way behind, but things aren't looking good with all the creatures that his opponent is playing. He's got a 3/4, a 3/3, a Skeletal Changeling that's 2/2, the Bramblewood Paragon,
the Bramblewood Paragon up at the top, I do believe.
Yep, and it's not looking good for Johnny Magic.
No, and exactly what we said, early game Finkel. We found the mid-game, and now this is the late game.
Yep, absolutely.
Look at that. That is 4 enormous monsters piling into the red zone. Carvalho thinking, yeah, I'm pretty happy here.
Yep, it's been a good game so far for our folks watching from Lisbon.
It's 1-1, absolutely. All right, well, let's actually give you Carvalho's deck list. He kicks off with 10 forests, the single plains and 5 swamps, and a Gilt-Leaf Palace, so that's his 17 land. We've got 2 Oblivion Ring, which he's just got that plains for, which is fine. And then Black Poplar Shaman. Nameless Inversion, which obviously works fantastically with almost anything. It's just such a great spell. Thorntooth Witch is a real MVP for him, both in the quarters against Nico and here again. It's going to be key, especially as turn after turn it's just going to machine gun a guy down. And in a way, it counteracts that card drawing that John's got in his deck.
Yep.
All right, on we go. We've got Bogstrider Ash, Swamp Walker, not terribly relevant right now. Briarthorn, the Crown Cloudo, we've seen that. Fertile Ground, Elvish Harbinger, Fistful of Force, a nice trick, Giltleaf Ambush. Again, now that's the kind of thing that can really mess things up, because it doesn't matter that they only have one power. So frequently, you're going to be running into Kinspell Skirmishers, Kithkin Greathearts with just one toughness. And those two little elf warriors that you flash out at instant speed for 3 mana can often take 2 monsters down.
Yep, and that would be just backbreaking for John.
Yep, Guardian of Cloverdale, that's kind of a win more card generally for Marcio in this matchup. If he's got to 7 mana and can happily spend his turn casting a 4/5, then realistically I think the Fat Lady's kind of singing with that one. Seed Guide Ash, Treefolk Harbinger, a pair of the Weed Prune and Poplars, Bosk Banneret, which cost him a life in game 1.
Yep.
The Bramblewood Paragon, great card. Everbark Shaman, arguably the MVP, although we haven't really seen it do much thus far today. Doesn't stop it being a great card. Leaf Crowned Elder.
Yep.
And he finishes off with a Lissalana Bowmaster. Just looking through his sideboard here, I don't know whether there's anything in particular he will have brought in. I mean, really, you want early defense, don't you? If you can find it, just looking through with.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a number of cheaper creatures which you might look towards. Things like Winnower Patrol, Giltleaf Seer, Elvish Branchbender, even an Elvish Eulogist. Hornet Harasser could be very good because it creates a situation where John can't reasonably attack simply because he'll trade 2 creatures for the 1 blocker. So we may see Marcio sideboard out some of the really expensive cards like the Guardian of Cloverdale in exchange for some of the cheaper creatures. It will be interesting to see what the final decision is on that. As we start the 3rd game here, John Finkel, of course, after a loss for the first time this weekend, or this Sunday of play, only the 2nd time this weekend, losing only once in the Swiss to Masashiro Kuroda, and actually taking an intentional draw. Funny story with that, John is the type of player who decided he was going to keep playing to hopefully help some of his friends who were in top 8 contention, people he quoted like Nikolai Herzog and Mike Hron, and kept playing despite the fact he could have drawn in or conceded to people to help get them in. In the very final round, he was playing the Spaniard we saw lose in the quarterfinals, Kalefeld, and Kalefeld said, "Dude, you definitely should draw with me so I can get into the top 8. You've never heard of me. You want me in the top 8. And John said, "Yep, you're right."
All right, well, here we are at 1 game all, and John well away, although turn 3 Oblivion Ring comes out to get rid of the Wizened Sen. So that means the Skirmisher is back down to manageable levels at 2-1. No Mana Screw this time for John, and in he goes, and he spends 4 for the Latchkey Fairy, 3/1 flyer.
I think this is actually a pretty good start from his opponent for John Finkel, simply because he hasn't been able to get on the board with many creatures. Play the free kinship spell Treefolk that's been causing so many problems this weekend. The Leaf Crowned Elder. Yep. He's still going to be able. John's still going to be able to get in with the 3/1 in the air, the Latchkey. But I would put Marcio behind on this situation simply because he hasn't been able to get on the board. Oblivion Ring doesn't block, even if it gets rid of that creature for a turn.
Sure. All right, so Fingal now, he's got a Skirmisher, so I guess he could decide to use that and come in for 4 with the flyer. And let's see what he does. Blue and a Plains. And no, he's just going to bounce, and that's a big tempo loss for Carvalho.
Yep.
And now we are going to see Skirmisher. Yep. Yes, there it is. And in we go for 6 damage. That is Carvalho from 15 down to 9. We are going to be done with this one very quickly unless Carvalho can stabilize. The early game, we are still very much in it, and that is not what Carvalho wants at all.
No, and I think you never want to second guess these players because again, as I've been saying all weekend, they are the top of the heap. They're very good, but if I'm Marcio Carvalho in this matchup, I think I don't keep a hand that doesn't have a spell for turn 1 or turn 2, and I think I reach for my sideboard to make sure I get one of those.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, he comes out with Elvish Harbinger, I do believe.
Yep.
So we'll have a look to see as he flicks through his deck. And he says, how about Nameless